Hey Radiant Souls, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Heather. I'm an intuitive artist, author, animal communicator, energy healer for pets and people, psychic, channeler, medium, and I'm on a mission to empower and embolden others to connect with their divine radiant light and honor the sacred connection with all life. One of the ways I love doing that is with a monthly forecast, and that's what we're here to talk about today, the energy for the month of February 2025. If this is your first forecast with me, let me show you kind of the lay of the land. We're going to talk about a theme. It's often a word, might be a phrase. We're going to do a channeling where I connect to my team of guides and bring through some messages for all of us. Then we'll discuss that a little bit. I'll unpack some of what the team talked about, but expand into some of my own notes on the subject as well. We'll look at some intuitive art that represents the frequency of the theme. We'll do an affirmation together that you can take away and use throughout the month. And then we will wrap it up with some takeaways, some homework for us. So the theme or the word for the month of February 2025 is stability. And I first want to ask, what does that mean for you? How does that word hit you? Does it make you feel like, oh, darn, we're going to lose out on our progress? Or, oh, thank goodness, I'm ready for things to feel a little more settled? Let me know in the comments which side you're on for that, because I think we kind of have two aspects that we can approach that with. So let me know how it resonates for you. And I'm going to pull through the channeled messages right now, share those with you. And I'll be back at the end of that to expand into some more discussion. So enjoy. Hello, bright and beautiful souls. We would speak to you today on the energy for the upcoming month of February 2025 in your time. As you have already heard, the theme for the month is stability. For many of you, you may feel that this is a bit boring, a bit primal, and we would say that's exactly why it is something you should investigate and cultivate for yourselves. So many of you have made tremendous progress, so many huge steps and strides toward your self-development, toward your soul development, toward your enlightenment, toward what you would say is your ascension. Over the past few months and years, you have changed in ways that you never dreamed possible. And please know that we see this as so beautiful and such a fundamental component of the collective changes that are occurring on your planet and will be continuing for the foreseeable future. But if you do not rest, if you do not have respite from that, if you do not come to your center in a way that is refreshing for you, you will tire yourselves out. You will have a more challenging time with the changes that are coming. When you think of the word stability, we would encourage you to think of it as your ability to be still, your ability to be stagnant without fear, without frustration, your ability to just be. When you think of a horse, a goat, another livestock animal that you put into a stable, you are often placing it into a stable so that it can have security, so that it can have warmth, so that it finds refreshment, so that it finds rest. Please be sure, dear ones, that you are doing that for yourselves as well. Be your own, find your own, seek your own stable for yourselves in a way that feels empowering. If you were to think of the image of a surfer, this is the time between waves. This is the time when you look out and say, what is coming next for me? And how do I find my breath? How do I find my posture? How do I find my balance? How do I find my stance so that I am the best version of me that I can be going forward? We would say probably half of you watching this will have that experience of February where it feels very still and stagnant. Do not be dissuaded by this. Do not be discouraged by this. It does not mean you took a wrong step anywhere. It does not mean that you are not on your momentum as we spoke about in January. It just means it is time for you to press pause and seek stable for yourself. Seek shelter for yourself. Allow yourself to be still. And we would say allow yourself to enjoy stillness. Many of you have been conditioned and programmed that stillness is bad, that stillness means a lack of progress, and it is exactly the opposite. Pause often creates momentum, so be sure that you are taking that pause for yourself. So half of you, we feel, approximately will feel that stagnation. Many of you for February will also feel, or will instead feel, a quickening of a pace and a feeling that you cannot find your center, you cannot find your stability. You are shaken by something on your personal landscape that occurs. Know that in those moments, you can also use the image of the physical stable. Go within, find your own sanctuary for yourself. Or the image of the surfer, adjusting that posture and that presence and that stance to be more balanced. But even in your flurry of activity, that stillness can come from your emotions. That stillness can come from your intention. You can still move forward with an air of stillness and an air of decisiveness and an air of peace about you. And we feel this is very critical for all of you at this time, for things are quickened, things are inflamed. How beautiful to find that sanctuary within yourselves. For all of you have a tremendous depth. Sometimes you find it for yourself, sometimes you feel into it, but many of you are still grasping for it, unable to sit with it for very long. And it is the sheer, most beautiful kernel of who you are becoming. So have faith, dear friends, that you are moving forward, even if you do not see the outward expression of progress for yourselves. Look within. Feel how different you have become from who you once were. Allow yourselves to seek the refreshment, the nourishment, the stillness, and find that ability to be with yourselves, for yourselves. We wish you the most beautiful month, dear friends. Be blessed. So, stability. Remember I asked at the beginning of this video, how does that word hit you? How do you resonate with that? And the team expanded on that too. I really do feel like there are kind of two paths to stability. And maybe you're not clearly in one camp or the other. There may be times throughout the month where you're kind of going between those two extremes. But for me, stability, in the way we're talking about it in February, is really feeling connected to ourselves and connected to a sense of security and a sense of safety, and not generating that security or safety from what we see in the external world. Not that it won't be there necessarily, don't take that as alarmist, but really self-sourcing that stability. Say that 5 times fast. And really being unshakable and unstoppable and unwavering. There's an element of presence and confidence with this that I think is really beautiful. And we often don't take the time, even in our daily habits and practices, to just kind of say, oh yeah, I'm okay, I got this. I'm here, I'm present. I may not know what in the world's going on with me, but that's okay. I'm here, and I'm just gonna be still. I loved how the team talked about the farm animals and the stable. When you put something up for the night, you put something in the stable. It's to keep it safe from predators, from dangers, from weather, sometimes from themselves. If I'm thinking of some goats that I've known in the past, they can get a little mischievous, get themselves into some trouble. But if they're in one location, you lessen the chances of that. But also replenishing your refreshment and your ability to rest and your ability to just be. And I think it's really important as we go through February, coming off the heels of January, which was all about momentum and moving forward. It's almost like we hit this kind of slow-mo phase where it's just about being and breathing and being okay with that. So it's your ability to be still in your decisions. It's your ability to be still in the time that you spend with yourself. And I would even say turning things off. turning off the outside distractions. Because sometimes we're spending time with ourselves, but we're spending time with ourselves on our devices. And we're cheating ourselves of that stillness, of that quiet. And truly witnessing what comes up for you. And being with it. Being okay with it, but also being with it. So this is something I hear a lot when people say they can't meditate. It's because they think that meditation should just be this kind of quiet that's nothing there. I want to go there and I don't want to have any of my thoughts. And I just want to like bliss out in this meditation and I can't get there, so I must be doing it wrong. But sometimes meditation is always meditation. It's about showing up for yourself. And sometimes it's about seeing what comes up for you. So what if you walked into a meditation, and I say walk, proverbially, you can do a walking meditation, but what if you entered a meditation and just said, what's here for me today? What can I learn? Maybe it's a little life review. Maybe it's a little lesson. Maybe you get your own kind of word or a theme for the day. Maybe it's an emotion that wants to come up and say, hey, this is why you felt this way. This is why you overreacted. Let's heal that together. Those are not distractions from your meditation. Sometimes that's the purpose. That's when you can have kind of the board meeting with yourself as CEO and employee and all the things and bring those things together for yourself. So for me, stability is that kind of framework where you can go to those deeper places with yourself and really be present. And that can be so very healing and so very empowering. Something I wrote down here was having a full heart and a clear vision for yourself at all times. That doesn't mean you have to have all the answers. It means you're clearly seeing, knowing, feeling yourself with a very full heart. All your flaws, all your foibles, all your mistakes, owning it fully and saying, I'm here to be human. I'm gonna screw stuff up sometimes. And I love myself anyway. Another thing that was coming up when I was working through these messages was the idea of contrast. And I have a little something I'm going to share on the screen with you as well. Sometimes we're afraid of the contrast. And so by contrast, I mean the things that are in stark opposition. It's black or white. I've been saying too, and a lot of others have been calling this polarity. I'm kind of shifting my perspective on that to call it contrast. We live in a world that offers us many opportunities to see contrast. And sometimes that can be really off-putting. It can be uncomfortable. It can feel a little jagged because you're seeing two things that are so opposite to one another when they come close together. And being a photographer, one of the ways that I experience contrast is in developing images. You can play with the different contrast to make things look more stark, make something stand out from the foreground a little bit, make something have more depth, more shadow, more presence. And so I thought I would play around with that a little bit and expand on that example, because when we're doing that with ourselves or when we're doing that with what we're observing in the world, for me, that is pulling us potentially off of our stability, but really it's offering us an opportunity to say, there's the sweet spot of where I can find the stability. Because if that thing that I'm seeing that is contrasting is bothering me, then there's an opportunity for me to just be with it and settle into the stillness of that. So when we look at something that has a whole lot of contrast, it's really clear. I don't want that. I do want that. Because there's nothing else kind of muddying the view if you see in the image that we're looking at. It's pretty clear. It's when we don't live in that contrast, which is odd because a lot of times we're thinking, I don't want to live in the world of polarity. I don't want to live in this sharp kind of time. But my feeling is what my team has made me kind of feel into more, especially as we're going through this month, is to use that contrast as a tool, to use that contrast to get really clear on what it is that you do want. So when you're seeing something that is black and white, opposite, polarity, really feel into that for yourself and say, okay, I prefer this, I don't prefer that, great, that's clear, I've got it. And then that allows you to see more of the field of view because you've dialed in your settings, so to speak, if that makes sense. And you can see how the image changes when you remove some of the contrast. But it's almost like we need that contrast to get clear. And then we can really say, okay, that's me. That's the frequency I'm going with. Thank you for showing me what I did not want. Now I'm really clear on what I do want, and I can move forward. Let's take a look at the art for the month and talk through just some of that. I'd love to hear in the comments what you all are seeing, feeling, sensing from this. There's a few things that I may not even bring up because I want to hear if you all notice them or feel into them too. But overall, it's interesting to me because when we're talking about stability and going to the stable, I keep using that example because I love it. There's this big box around everything that just, it also looks like it's containing a lot of motion and chaos. And really, for me, the energy of transformation and the energy of clarity with some of those structures, the patterns, the colors. So it's almost like taking that sacred flame of yourself where it might feel like chaos, it might feel like change, it might feel like things are bubbling up, and surrounding that with your own stability and saying, shh, shh, shh. We'll do all the things. We'll make all those changes. We'll get back in gear. But first, let's just get our balance, get our grounding, get our footing, like the surfer that the team was talking about. So I see some images of, there's maybe some butterfly imagery here. There's some infinity signs. To me, the very, very center of it, if you were to turn it on its side, almost looks like an oar. So if you're kind of in a boat, you want to be stable in that too, finding your balance. There's lots of fun kind of hidden things in here. So again, love to hear what you think in the comments of that. The affirmation that wanted to come through for all of us this month is, I am comfortable in stillness, feeling grounded and empowered for any release that is needed at this time. I am comfortable in stillness, feeling grounded and empowered for any release that is needed at this time. So as we talk about our takeaways, I wanted to touch on two elements of the natural world that are coming to the forefront to help support this message. And one of them is, it's all out there in a lot of different conversations because of the Lunar New Year, and that is the snake. It's the animal of the Chinese New Year for 2025. But when I think of the snake, when we think about stability, grounded, they are on the ground. They are very aware of what's around them. They're very tuned into their environment. So for them, stability is not stagnation. For them, stability is safety. It's the ability to read the circumstances, read the vibrations, literally feel the vibrations through their body. And I think as we go through more of 2025, so many of us are stepping more into that awareness of feeling what's around us, almost in a hypersensitive way. But please tune into that for yourselves and use that as, a tuning fork, as a tool to be able to say, I may be feeling and sensing something, but it may not be mine. I may just be picking it up from someone else or feeling into it from the collective. And that's okay. That's part of being an empathic human. That's part of being intuitive. But how can I be stable, present with myself, and still have those observations and use them as tools of discernment for myself? The other thing with this snake is really moving through release when they shed their skin. I think for a lot of us, 2025 is going to be a walking out of things, walking into something that is new. You can look at it from either side, really, right? But I think a lot of us are shedding our skins in different ways, different identities that don't serve us, habits that no longer support us. And we've made these calibrations and we fine-tuned this over the past few years. 2025 feels more dialed in. It feels more precise in what we're changing and taking on for ourselves. And it feels like we just have so much more clarity about it. So being fearless and knowing that that's just part of your evolution, that's part of how you grow, and whatever no longer fits you is keeping you out of your stability. Because if you're, too tight in something, you're not really stable. Stability is being able to fully expand and breathe into something. I also want to say for the snake, they're very flexible, but then they're often, and maybe some of you as well have this experience, they're often feared. So for me, that calls up, I want us to pay attention to, again, looking at some of our fears. What have we carried forward as a fear that we no longer need to? And feeling into that for ourselves. And then the other element is a gemstone called chrysoprase. And it's this really poppy, cute kind of green crystal. Really good for mood stability and keeping yourself in balance with that. So that really wanted to come through. And whether you look at the image of it here, or you have a piece of it in your collection, or you just connect to the consciousness of it, allow it to support you when you are having those moments where you're cultivating stability for yourself. So that's it for the month. And I'm so excited to share this with you. Thank you for spending some time with me today. Let me know in the comments how you are feeling for February 2025. What's going on in your world? I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.